is going to change so much on how we do things that there has never been a smaller gap between people who know nothing and people who know a lot.
Hey, welcome to Brand Storytellers. Today we're talking to PJ Pereira, co-founder of Pereira and Odell, one of the leading agencies in the ad industry. PJ is also a thought leader for the industry, and today he's going to be talking to us about one of his favorite subjects, how AI is going to be used in creativity and in our business of brand storytelling in the future.
I see a bright future, even though I don't know exactly how it's going to look like. But this moment that we are now reminds me a lot of where we were 25 years ago. When in the beginning of the internet.com world and everyone wondering if there was going to be there was kind of part of the world saying, oh, it's going to change forever. Nothing that exists will remain. And another group of people saying, no, nothing's going to change. And it happened that none of them was right. So, there's still a lot of the old and there's a lot of the news. There are more possibilities and we can play with more stuff. And I think this is good. I think when variety and diversity of possibilities always makes us better as creative beings.
Absolutely. We have a bigger toolbox now than ever. And then technology coming in. For example, I've seen your post on AI. So tell me a little bit about how you perceive AI. What could it take us as far as being one of those tools?
So I think that for me, it's hard to imagine what the future is going to be like because I think that the differences and the changes are going to be so dramatic that every exercise to predict the future is a little futile, but we can at least prepare ourselves to the kind of future that lies ahead. And I think the kind of future is the kind that where the tools that we use are not 100% in our control anymore, and we should enjoy it. It's a radically different process. I mean, the same way that the creative process changed completely between the generation before me that did everything by hand, right, and my generation that started to include computers in the process, right, because we could see things and we could finish things and have a much better understanding of the creative process and how things are going to look like. And for the ones before me, that was like, oh no, that's just so cheap and ugly and dirty. And for people that came after me, that's a normal thing. I think the same thing is going to happen with artificial intelligence because artificial intelligence is not a thing, it's a feature of everything. Everything that we know, everything that exists has a different level of intelligence on it. I think that Sam Altman, from the founder of OpenAI, he gave an interview recently and he said that the major thing that changed since this adventure in artificial intelligence for him is that instead of seeing intelligence as something that belongs to humans, he now sees intelligence as an attribute of everything, even if it's zero. Like this table where my computer stands on has zero intelligence, but still an attribute.
That's right.
And I think we need to think about the world in those terms from now on. Is like, what is the level of intelligence of things? Because that is going to determine our relationship with them. For me, if you look at the transformation ahead, the most important adjustment that we have to make is that our creative tools are going to have their own intentions on it. So I was talking to the creative team and looking at something that they were doing, playing with artificial intelligence. There was one scene that they included on the video that was different from what she described me originally. And I thought, oh, that's actually pretty cool. Did you actually ask it for it to be this way? It's like, no, I asked something different. And when I saw the rendering, it was like this, and I actually liked it. I kept it, and it was indeed, I liked it too. And it's like the slight disobedience was part of it was a feature, was something interesting we could keep there. the best analogy for me is that it's like going from a bike to a horse. Like a bike is a tool, is a transportation tool. They have total control over it. You only do the things that you want it to do. But it relies on your legs to move forward. A horse has its own legs, is much more powerful than you, but it's going to make some decisions by itself. If it really decides to stop to have water when you're late for a meeting, it will stop and drink some water. There's nothing it can do to get the beast out of that. AI will make its own decisions. And tools that include AI, things will have their own intentions and own bias, treated as a little bit of a partial partner on the creative process. And I don't mind that. I'm okay with that.
I started my career with all the hand-done things, and early in my career is when the Macintosh came out.
Do you remember how at that time everyone said, "Oh, everyone's going to lose their job. This is going to be it's killing the poetry and the soul of advertising."
It's just now I see AI and I see this is like those things, but multiplied.
Yeah. I think that creative had always had to catch up with technology, right? From artists from the past, and the way that the moment someone found a way to make marble smooth, that changes the way that creative minds of that time happened. Like, now we can actually make sculptures that look like skin, that have a softness that we never had before. So I think creative minds always played with the technology and the most advanced and new things and use that as a canvas. Absolutely. I don't think there's anything necessarily new to that. What's new is the degree the degree of the impact that this thing is going to make. And I think that this is the biggest impact that creativity has ever happened. Because for me, this is how because it changes the nature it's changing how we think about creativity by itself. Right? If you think about, there's always like a kid in the family that thought, that's a very creative kid, right? What do you see in a person that makes you feel that they are creative? Right? I think the first one is that a complete disregard for the rules is a person that understands the rules, but actually the command that the rules create on their mind is that, okay, let's break it. Let's do the opposite. And the other parts of that is a person that has no problem whatsoever with having lots of ideas, knowing that only a few of them are actually going to work. Essentially, that's what makes a person be called creative. Being is not having a problem with having multiple ideas and being okay with the process that you understand the rules and then you just try the opposite. And then on top of that, when you look at it emotionally, you have to be unafraid of what they represent, unafraid of breaking rules, and unafraid of wasting your time. Ultimately, the creative courage is the courage of wasting time. Yeah, we're going to try 1,000 ideas and they're all going to be crappy, and I'm fine with that. An artificial intelligence is, in theory, if I'm just speaking from a mathematical standpoint, it's much better than us at those things. It's much better at understanding a rule and falling, okay, I need to go against it, easy. It's much better at creating lots of ideas in record time, and is absolutely unafraid of wasting time because it doesn't even understand the idea of fear. So what we know as creativity, the machines can do better. And I don't mean that machines are more creative than people. That's not what I mean at all. What I mean is that our idea of what creativity is will change. And we're going to have to reshape the same way that we had to change what death is. Death used to be the heart stopped. Now we can make the heart come back. Now that had to be always the brain. Now scientists can bring dead brains back to life. So we're going to need to think about what that is in this new world. If we can rethink that, we can rethink creativity. We're going to be fine.
What advice do you give?
So let me start. It's a very big and important question. Let me start with the what are the challenges? Because I think that the challenges can lead to I'm not sure that I have the answer to what they have to do.
Okay.
Well, we can talk about that and think about it. I think the challenge, there are two major challenges. They're compounding that I think it's that will impact the life and the career of anyone in the beginning of anyone who begin their careers in this business. That is a crisis of mentorship, right? Sure. The first part of it is that because most places are either a full remote mode or partial remote work, and the experienced people do not have they can be personally mentored themselves, so they know how to mentor people by example. So like, okay, I'm going to do things, and I know that you're going to be able to copy how I'm evolving and how I'm doing my things, and I know that you're going to get there. You just expect that that's how it's going to be for the next generation. All of a sudden, I'm in my home on Zoom, and if I'm kind of typing things and I'm stopping thinking, there's a lot of the things that are happening in the way I operate that no one is watching, that the newcomers cannot see. They only see me in action at a particular moment, and everything beyond that zone is dark for them. That is a problem. That is something that they're going to need to navigate, especially because the people that could guide them. Let's make sure that we come to the office a few days a week at least. And I'm making the effort. It's way more comfort free. And I think that's important. It's a responsibility that we have. It's going to change so much on how we do things that there has never been a smaller gap between people who know nothing and people who know a lot. Which means that there's not a lot of guidance possible if no one knows anything, which is the truth right now. And all of a sudden, we have a new generation coming in, and they have these blank universe. They have these open, wide sea, and we have no idea what's on the other side because no one has been there. So I think we are in the best advice that I can give now is that be aware that people above you don't know much. And embrace it. Use their experience the best way you can, but embrace uncertainty, embrace that chaos that is going to be ahead of you. And the world promised you that once you got out of college, you're going to have a mentor, you're going to have people who are going to tell you how things are. Guess what? That's not going to happen. And that may be a good thing. That may be the opportunity that you have to grow faster than you have ever had. I joined the business 25 years ago. I joined the advertising 25 years ago, right when the internet was starting. And I didn't have the luxury of being mentored by people who know what I needed to learn to do my job. It happened 2 years in, I was a creative director because it's like, okay, no one's going to tell me what to do. I'm going to figure that out by myself. So we started to do stuff, win a bunch of awards, got a bunch of visibility. Clients was asking if, all right, okay. Now we have to literally, this is what happened to me. This is how I became a creative director. I won a bunch of lines at Cannes 1 year. They invited me to be a director on the jury the following year. And my boss looked at me like, I cannot send a copywriter to the jury at Cannes. I think you're going to need to be promoted to be the creative director now. So I can be I was promoted just for that. And then suddenly I'm a creative director.
Yeah.
I had no preparation, no guidance, no anything, but they needed me to be, and I stepped up and I panicked and I dealt with the chaos and here I am. It was tough.
Yeah.
Someone's going to do it. Someone's going to have to say, all right, I'll handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great story. I love that. And what it is you not knowing what you didn't know, but you're passionate to move it forward anyway and just give it a shot. I mean, that's where invention happens. I also love the fact that you said, hey, so they just made me a creative director and it was tough, but I stepped up. And I think stepping up in every respect is something that people need to be encouraged to do.
If there's one big lesson or one big advice is step up. Don't panic.
Right.
Step up.
Yeah.
There's no one here in the world that can give you advice and tell you how to do your job anymore, because your job is going to be so different from anything that any other generation has done, the way that anyone else has done, that no one knows. So embrace it, deal with the chaos, deal with the uncertainty, and see where it goes.
How has that helped your company succeed?
We started the agency. We left Andrew and I when we decided we used to work at AKQA, right? Big, famous digital shop and everything. We decided to leave when the world was great. We got investments and everything. Between the day that we left and the day that we opened, the big recession of
2008.
We left in December. We opened in April.
Yeah.
The world fell apart in March.
Yeah.
Right before, we didn't have time to do it. So like at that point, for like, okay, we don't have a job anymore. We have the investment in the bank.
Yeah.
It's not enough money to retire.
Yeah.
We don't have the ability. Our boss is not going to take us back. So let's do this.
Yeah.
And no one knew at that point how to start an agency or to run an agency or in that kind of crazy climate. And again, someone is going to have to do it. There's another thing that happened when we were building the agency before that led to our decision. That was, all right, there was a generation. There were very clear distinction between the digital agencies and traditional agencies. And then there was a generation of agencies coming out that were like Drogify and 72 and Sunny. There was like, we are hybrid agencies. We can do digital and traditional. And we looked at them, Andrew and I looked at them like, you recognize that all those hybrid agencies, they are traditional people. They're now claiming to do digital as well. So it's not actually a hybrid movement. It's a takeover. In order for these movements of hybridization, of combining the languages into one kind of thinking, for it to be legit, there needs to be at least one agency there that comes from the other side. And all my friends from all digital and traditional agencies told me that's impossible, because it's possible to transition from traditional agencies to digital, but it's not possible to transition to the other way around. And that's bullshit. Of course it is.
Oh, I totally agree.
And if okay, let's do that. We don't know how it is, but let's make it happen. And we did it 15 years ago, and we're here still alive. So I think that is an attitude that is in every moment of change. Your courage to go figure things that no one knows is an asset.
Yeah.
And you just need to know that the fact that no one can give you advice, full, complete advice, is a good thing. When you ask around and no one can tell you what to do, some people panic. And I say, no, just treat that as a big opportunity. You can still take advice on the parts, and then you have to judge for yourself which parts still belong in this future and which parts don't belong anymore. And then you make your own decision, but you have to make a judgment. Don't be afraid of making judgments. If you are afraid of making judgments, you're not built for being a creative director.
I agree.
Right? Our job is to make judgments, even if they're wrong, but commit to a judgment, commit to a decision. So,
and I think that if you're not willing to do that, you're not built for success, because every success story has that element in it.
I think it's that the idea of ambition here, it comes from a way of thinking that if instead of looking at the goals from a technical standpoint, from a brief and exactly what you asked, if you try to understand what's behind that brief, what is a really incredible thing you can do, that's like the biggest key to unlock creativity, is finding where the dreams live, find where the big ambitions are. We do this thing here, this exercise with clients here, we call what is a secret brief, right? What is the thing that you really want, that you want even there writing on the brief because you don't want to be held accountable for? Right? Because every brief that client gives you, they calculated what is the best thing that they can count that a good agency is going to give them. But they can write down, and their boss can hold them accountable and they can link their bonus to achieving that.
Mm-hmm.
But they will stop short of the point of like, I would love if that was true, but that's impossible. I want to know what that thing that they think is impossible. Because even if I don't get it,
Mm-hmm.
knowing can point in the direction. And guess what? Every single time that, in working on towards the official brief, I stumbled upon an idea that could deliver on the big dream, the secret brief, as we call.
Mm-hmm.
When we had that conversation with the client, budgets were suddenly not a problem. The brand directions and the brand limitations, they were not a limitation anymore. Every time they can tap into those big ambitions, those secret briefs behind the briefs, we find everything was up for grabs. And that's why I feel like the real big, exciting ambitions are the biggest unlocker of creativity in the world.
When you took over the Mini campaign, the Mini Cooper as a brand, where do you take a brand that's had such a successful launch?
Taking a brand that has been great in the past and it can be very intimidating, but that's I think you're exactly right. Shooting for real big ambitions makes it possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're just obedient and following the goals that people gave themselves and following the briefs that people gave themselves, can only get to a technical okay. Expected. No one becomes a big star by doing what's expected from them.
Mm-hmm.
You can only become a superstar. And I'm not talking from a personal fame. I'm talking a superstar in a relationship. As an agency, you're a superstar agency for your client. When you give them something that not even their wildest dream they could think about, or they could think that, but they wouldn't say it out loud because they would think it was blasphemous. I like the idea of finding these blasphemous dreams.
Yeah.
And trying to do that. And it's very unlikely that we will do. But if you try with every single client and every single assignment, we think about that, eventually you're going to hit one or two. And that's all you need is one or two every now and then. And then you're great. You're doing really well in that relationship.
When you go to your LinkedIn page, you've got this headshot. I don't know about the headshot that you've got in there. So you got your sparring gloves on. So tell me, why sparring gloves? Why are we doing sparring gloves?
All right, it's a good question. I have been practicing martial arts since I was 10 years old. Never stopped, right? So I grew up doing that. I have multiple black belts. It's fun. You found a lot. Any moments in my life that wasn't training because I moved and hadn't found it, I go crazy. I need to be fighting. That's my personal escape, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of my personality anyway. When I was 14 years old, my dream was to there was about the time that the first UFC was happened. I feel like that's what I want to do. And I started to compete. I have no talent for that. I love fighting, but I hate the moments before the fight.
Right.
Because I don't like the idea that I'm working on with something that someone actually wants to hurt me. I don't mind punching and getting punched. But the idea that someone actually wants to cause me harm breaks my heart and causes too much anxiety.
Yeah.
So I don't like that. I cannot be a professional fighter if I don't like that someone wants to harm me. So all right. And I need to find something else. So I ended up working in advertising, but that fighting was what I actually dreamed of doing, that I just didn't have the emotional talent for that.
Yeah.
And I never stopped.
Okay.
Recently, as I got older and I had the opportunity to see so many talented people in our business burn out and go away, I realized how important fighting and writing, my two my two ways of putting up steam, actually have been. Because when things go wrong at work, I can always go back to the gym and let the the beast out, or can always open my computer and kind of write a new chapter and take the person I was angry about and may create a villain based on them and kind of and get full revenge and killing that person with a lot of pain, and that experience of having a place where I can go and not having all my creative energy, all my emotional energy have to be solved at work or with my family, because that's the other thing that people do. They get frustrated at work, they go home and they put everything on their family. That's kind of causing lots of problems as well, right?
And you had a
third place was really important for me to keep my career fresh and keep my brain fresh, my emotional state fresh. So while my friends were getting frustrated to the point that they were burning out and they were resenting their careers and leaving, I managed to keep it going all these years because of that. So that's when I realized that fighting is not just a hobby. Fighting is part of who I am. And I can only be the person who I am today. I can only be the professional I am today because I have fighting as a safe space, which is a very ironic thing to think of fighting as a safe space, but it is.
No, that I love that. I love that. And you're writing too, because you wrote a book. You wrote a novel, right?
I wrote 4 novels in Portuguese.
Oh, okay.
And I just published my first one in English.
Okay, that was the one I was thinking about. And remind me of the title of it. I should have that on my.
Called The Girl from Wudang. Is a story about, I mix those two things, the martial arts and the writing. Is a story about artificial intelligence and kung fu.
Okay, well, I never read it.
Yeah, I mean, there's diversity, and not trying to jump on the bandwagon of that we are living now, but diversity has always been the territory, the gasoline for creativity. I mean, we talk about thinking outside the box a lot. It's kind of the cliche for what creativity is. And what is that fucking box? I always ask me, what is that box? I remember the day that I realized is the box is our upbringing. The life that created ourselves, that created us as individuals, is what the box is. That's and nice. The creative minds are usually people who dare to have ideas and to try things that don't belong to how they were raised. That don't belong to the way, to the time and the place and the caste or the race or the gender or the whatever. Right. But guess what? When you have creativity as a teamwork activity, and you bring people from different backgrounds, you're bringing people from different boxes. So everything that is inside of your box is outside of the next person's box. And when you're working together, the chances of creating something very unique, because the boxes just don't match, are incredible. I remember being a meeting with me, Brazilian, my Japanese partner, a guy from Scotland, and a girl from New York, right? And it wasn't a joke. That was a real meeting. It wasn't a bar joke. There's no way that unless we try really hard, unless we go for the cliches, if we actually tap into what our histories are.
You just always leave me inspired, and I so appreciate your time, because I know you're super busy.
It's my pleasure. I think that this is, I have always dedicated a good chunk of my time to help the industry get better, and there's no way to get the industry better without helping the new generations pick up speed.
I told you that PJ knew what he was talking about. If you like this interview, put something in the comments about what you liked, and we'll make more like that. And if you'll hit that subscribe button and that like button, that'll help us
make more videos for you about brand storytelling and about the ad industry and how you can have success in it. We'll see you next time. Thank you.